In a small, quiet Oklahoma town, the tragic story of Kelsey Shelton Smith Briggs unfolded, revealing a web of chilling secrets, devastating betrayals, and a system that failed its most vulnerable. Behind her bright smile and joyful demeanor lay a life marked by unspeakable suffering. The case would shock the nation, leaving many to ask, what truly happened to Kelsey, and who could be trusted in a narrative where love, control, and revenge intersected? Join us as we uncover the haunting details of a story that challenged the very fabric of justice. Kelsey Shelton Smith Briggs was born on December 28, 2002, a symbol of innocence and childhood amid the turmoil of her parents' fractured relationship. Her mother, Ray Dawn Smith, and father, Lance Briggs, had divorced before her birth, casting uncertainty over Kelsey's paternity. During their separation, Ray had been involved with another man, and it wasn't until Kelsey was 3 months old that a paternity test confirmed Lance as her father. This revelation did little to mend the fractured family. Lance showed minimal interest in his daughter, while his family, led by his mother, Kathy Briggs, sought control, insisting Kelsey carry the Briggs surname. However, beyond this surface-level claim, neither Lance nor his family made meaningful efforts to nurture or support Kelsey during her early life. Ray and Lance's relationship was once a tale of youthful romance. High school sweethearts, they rekindled their bond years later, marrying in 2000. Yet, their union quickly spiraled into turmoil as Lance's drug addiction and violent tendencies surfaced. Ray endured relentless physical abuse, with visible injuries such as black eyes, bruised ribs, and pulled hair standing as grim reminders of Lance's anger. The abuse culminated in a devastating act of violence that caused Ray to miscarry during her first pregnancy. Despite filing for divorce and seeking refuge with her parents, Ray found herself trapped in an abusive cycle as Lance continued to manipulate her, breaking into their home and leaving threatening messages. At the heart of this chaos was Kathy Briggs, Lance's mother, whose controlling and manipulative nature would have a profound impact on Kelsey's life. Kathy's own past was marred by instability and conflict. Becoming a mother at just 17, Kathy had her first child, followed by another a year later. Her tumultuous relationship with Kevin Robinson, the father of her children, led to a brief and volatile marriage that ended in divorce after just 2 years. Kathy's early life was characterized by turmoil, raising questions about her motivations and character, questions that would become central in the tragic narrative of her granddaughter, Kelsey. In 1979, Kevin Robinson died under suspicious circumstances. Officially, his death was ruled a suicide by gunshot, with Kathy claiming that the emotional toll of being unable to see his children due to custody disputes had driven him to despair. However, her actions following his death cast significant doubt on this explanation. Rather than focusing on her children's well-being, Kathy brought them to a courthouse and shockingly threatened to kill them if the state didn't assume custody. This alarming incident prompted the Department of Human Services, DHS, to intervene. Afterward, Kathy rarely visited her children, instead focusing on her social life. In the years following Kevin's death, Kathy's priorities became clear. She was known for spending her time partying and socializing rather than caring for her children. This period of neglect strained her relationship with them, who were left in the care of the state. Eventually, Kathy remarried Royce Briggs, who brought some stability to her life. Together, they regained custody of her children, and Royce's last name was adopted by her son, Lance, who would later become Kelsey's father. Despite Royce's influence, Kathy's reputation for being controlling and manipulative persisted, traits that deeply impacted her family, especially Lance. Kathy's influence. Kathy's history of domineering and erratic behavior extended into her later years. Her influence over Lance was strong, and when he entered a turbulent relationship with Ray Dawn Smith, Kathy became a relentless force of interference. She spread rumors, filed false reports, and used her overbearing personality to manipulate situations in her favor. Her involvement often worsened conflicts, creating a toxic environment that eventually engulfed Kelsey. After Lance's remarriage in 2003, Kathy recruited her new daughter-in-law to escalate her harassment against Ray. This included stalking, following her to work and school, and filing false police reports, such as accusations of reckless driving that had no basis in reality. Kathy's obsessive interference made life unbearable for Ray, who faced constant battles to protect her daughter. This toxic family dynamic placed Kelsey at the center of an intense struggle, her innocence overshadowed by the chaos around her. By 2005, Kelsey's well-being had started to deteriorate alarmingly. In January, she suffered a broken collarbone, allegedly caused by falling out of her crib. The tragedy of this incident raised suspicions and gave Kathy an opportunity to claim that Ree was neglecting Kelsey. As a result, Kathy gained temporary custody. Under Kathy's care, Kelsey's condition worsened. She lost weight, her hair began to fall out, and her once vibrant personality dimmed. These warning signs were largely ignored as Kathy focused solely on keeping Kelsey away from Ree. The custody battle intensified, leaving Kelsey caught in the middle of a toxic feud. Her health and safety were overlooked in a bitter struggle for control and revenge, setting the stage for tragedy. The darkest day in Kelsey's short life came on October 11, 2005. That afternoon, her mother, Ree Smith, left their home to run errands, believing Kelsey was safe with her boyfriend, Michael Porter. Kelsey, who had been napping in her bed, was left in what should have been a secure environment. Ree planned to return quickly after picking up her stepdaughter from school and retrieving therapy documents for Kelsey from the post office. Tragically, this seemingly routine departure would lead to the unimaginable. When Ree returned home, she saw a scene of chaos that would haunt her for the rest of her life. An ambulance and paramedics were parked outside her house, their lights flashing menacingly. Ree's mother stood on the porch, her face a mixture of dread and sadness. Ree demanded to know what had happened, and her mother explained that Michael had called, saying Kelsey had experienced a seizure while sleeping and that paramedics were desperately trying to revive the seemingly unconscious child as they prepared to take her to the hospital. Ree stood in stunned silence. Doctors at the ER worked tirelessly to save Kelsey, but at precisely 4:45 p.m., their efforts were in vain. The young girl was declared deceased. In the hours that followed, Ree, overcome with grief and disbelief, walked into the room where Kelsey's lifeless body lay. She picked up her daughter's tiny, frail corpse and sobbed hysterically, holding her in her arms. Through her tears, she whispered, "Why did God take my child?" During discussions at the hospital about the autopsy procedures, Michael Porter's behavior raised suspicions. Michael, visibly upset, blurted out, "Are they this weird that they're not going to cut her open?" Following this outburst, Michael fainted twice and suffered a heart attack, momentarily diverting attention from the ongoing tragedy. However, the autopsy results revealed the grim truth. Evidence of repeated sexual abuse emerged, making the findings even more horrifying. Kelsey had died from blunt force trauma to her abdomen, an injury so severe that it caused her internal organs to fail. This was the result of intentional violence, not a fall or accident. Investigators uncovered evidence of Kelsey's prolonged abuse, most likely occurring during her stays with the Briggs family. While examining Michael Porter's personal belongings, authorities discovered images and videos of young children on his computer, implicating him in disturbing acts of exploitation. This discovery painted a terrifying picture of a man who had not only physically harmed Kelsey but had also subjected her to unimaginable abuse. The combination of Kelsey's injuries and the earlier claims of mistreatment unveiled a harrowing reality. While she was living with the Briggs, Kelsey showed a pattern of increasing abuse and neglect. Earlier that year, Kelsey had suffered severe injuries, including a broken collarbone, fractured legs, and signs of malnourishment, all of which had been disregarded or ignored, allowing the cycle of abuse to continue unchecked. As the investigation progressed, it became evident that Kelsey had endured extensive suffering in the months preceding her death. The tragedy extended beyond the loss of an innocent child. It was a glaring indictment of the system's failure to protect her. This was not just about one man's cruelty, it was a collective breakdown of those tasked with ensuring Kelsey's safety. The events of that fateful day left an indelible mark on everyone who knew her, while the subsequent revelations exposed a level of suffering no child should ever endure. As the investigation unfolded, Kathy Briggs, Kelsey's paternal grandmother, seized the opportunity to further her agenda. Kathy quickly informed her son, Lance Briggs, who was undergoing rehabilitation at Fort Benning, Georgia, of Kelsey's death. Almost immediately, she began spreading falsehoods, accusing Ray Smith of Kelsey's murder. Kathy alleged that Ray had abused Kelsey, painting her as the villain in the unfolding tragedy. Leveraging her influence through a website she created, Kelsey's Purpose, Kathy launched a campaign to sway public opinion against Ray. She twisted the narrative to frame Ray as an unfit mother who allowed Kelsey to suffer, despite mounting evidence that the abuse occurred under Michael Porter's care and during Kelsey's time in the Briggs household. Kathy's actions deepened the divide between the Smith and Briggs families and complicated the investigation. Her ability to manipulate public perception created a storm of conflicting narratives, distracting from the truth and allowing the true perpetrators to deflect blame. The investigation uncovered a grim reality. Kelsey's short life, filled with her mother's love, had been overshadowed by relentless abuse and neglect. The autopsy confirmed her death was not an isolated incident, but the culmination of months of unchecked cruelty. Despite this, the pursuit of justice was hindered by Kathy's manipulations and the ongoing family conflict, threatening to obscure the truth. Framing Ray as the villain while the real perpetrators sought to cover their tracks, the investigation became a battle for truth, justice, and control over Kelsey's memory and legacy. In the end, the pursuit of justice for Kelsey Shelton Smith Briggs was as heartbreaking as it was controversial, exposing cracks in the legal system and sparking public outrage. After the investigation, Michael Porter, Ray Smith's boyfriend and the last person to see Kelsey alive, was charged with her murder. The evidence against him was overwhelming. The autopsy revealed fatal blunt force trauma to her abdomen and signs of prolonged sexual abuse. Additionally, incriminating material found on Porter's computer linked him to child exploitation. To avoid a harsher first-degree murder conviction, Porter pleaded guilty to second-degree murder and was sentenced to 30 years in prison, a term many felt was insufficient given the severity of his crimes. In court, Porter showed little emotion, but the weight of his actions lingered in the room. However, what followed shocked everyone. Despite not being present at the time of Kelsey's death, Ray Smith was also charged. Prosecutors argued that Ray had enabled child abuse by leaving Kelsey in Porter's care, despite alleged warning signs of his abusive behavior. They claimed Ray failed in her duty to protect Kelsey, ignoring the context of her life, a mother enduring years of harassment from the Briggs family, multiple custody battles, and the challenges of rebuilding her life while striving to keep Kelsey safe. The court's decision to charge Ray left the public stunned and added another layer of complexity to the heartbreaking case. Ray was sentenced to 27 years in prison, just 3 years less than Michael Porter's sentence. The verdict left many questioning the fairness of the judicial system, as it appeared to punish a grieving mother who had fought tirelessly to protect her daughter. Ray had attended therapy, worked to regain custody of Kelsey from Kathy Briggs, and provided a stable home. Yet, the court's decision cast her as complicit in Kelsey's suffering, despite the fact that much of the abuse occurred while Kelsey was with the Briggs family or under Porter's care. The courtroom erupted with mixed reactions. Kathy Briggs supporters hailed the ruling as justice for Kelsey, while Ray's advocates were heartbroken, calling it a grave miscarriage of justice. Among Ray's defenders were those who believed Kathy's smear campaign and manipulation heavily influenced the narrative. Through her website, Kelsey's Purpose, Kathy accused Ray of neglect and abuse, downplaying her own family's role in Kelsey's injuries. Public outrage over Ray's conviction was swift. Advocacy groups, journalists, and individuals sympathetic to her plight raised concerns about the trial's fairness. Critics pointed to the judicial system's failure to thoroughly investigate the Briggs family's involvement in Kelsey's abuse, particularly during their custody. Many viewed Ray as a scapegoat, punished for Porter's crimes and the systemic failures of child protective services. Ray's conviction became a symbol of a flawed system unable to distinguish between victims and perpetrators. Her case shed light on the challenges faced by mothers trying to protect their children in toxic custody battles. It also raised questions about accountability, manipulation, and biases in family conflicts. For many, the pursuit of justice for Kelsey did not end with the convictions of Porter and Ray. Instead, it sparked a movement advocating legal reforms and re-evaluating the broader circumstances of the case. Ray's supporters vowed to continue fighting for her freedom, arguing that her love and efforts to protect Kelsey were overshadowed by a judicial system focused on assigning blame. Meanwhile, Kathy Briggs remained unapologetic, perpetuating her narrative of Ray's culpability, even as doubts about her motives grew. The tragedy of Kelsey's death and the ensuing legal battles left deep scars, serving as a grim reminder of the consequences of systemic failures and misplaced blame. Kelsey's death spurred a movement for child protection reforms. Her case inspired candlelight vigils, advocacy campaigns, and public discussions, keeping her memory alive and pushing for systemic change. Lawmakers, social workers, and communities rallied for improved custody oversight, better training for recognizing abuse, and stronger intervention protocols in cases of domestic violence. Despite her short life, Kelsey's bright smile, love of drawing, and cherished moments with her mother left a lasting impact. Her story became a symbol of hope and resilience, inspiring annual gatherings on her birthday and the anniversary of her death. These events, marked by candlelight vigils and balloon releases, celebrate her vibrant spirit while advocating for justice and reform. If Kelsey's story resonates with you, let it inspire action. Join the effort to raise awareness and fight for a safer future for children. By subscribing to our channel and supporting this mission, you can help shed light on the truth, push for reforms, and ensure that no child endures what Kelsey did. Thank you for standing with us in this vital cause.